Hello and welcome to today's show. My name is Ariella Indigo and I'm your host for season 2 of the Multidimensional Human Experience Global Summit. So in this particular season, we have the pleasure and honor of talking to you about the personal ascension process and how to really make forwards traction in our spiritual evolution paths. And in today's show, I'm excited to be joined by Laurie Ladd. He's an incredible ascension guide and a high council channel for the multidimensional beings inside of Telos, which is the Lemurian city found within Mount Shasta. Her mission is to assist humanity into the 5th dimension, and she's a teacher on ascension, on multidimensional living, and transitioning into the 5th dimension. So Laurie, thank you so much for being here and a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Awesome. Just saying what an awesome job I've got being able to interview all these amazing people and have these types of conversations.
Fun.
Very much, and very interesting. And it's an incredibly important topic which is affecting us all. So I can't wait to get into this with you. Mm-hmm. So I'd just like to start off, if I may, by asking you to share with the viewers a bit about your own personal ascension journey. And also if you can give us any structure, linear, which is always welcome, or otherwise, as to what the ascension process looks like.
Yes. So I'm smiling and laughing because I've got all these star beams that are like around, just like really wanting to share this information and just really lighten the load for us all about ascension and what we're going through. So my own personal ascension, when I was around 12 or 13 years old, my mom was really spiritual and she was learning about all this stuff that was happening on the planet, and ascension was one of those things that we started learning about when I was 12 or 13 years old. And so I knew for a very long time, since I was 13, I'm 40, almost 43, that there was an ascension process and that the planet was going to be ascending. At that point back then in like 89-ish, ascension to all of us, to many of us, was, the ships coming, and then, I would take their hands and walk people up the stairs, and they'd go into the ships, and then we would leave and the earth would ascend, mm-hmm. right? And we would have to leave. We would have to literally get off the planet. That's the ascension. And then of course, as the planet started ascending, right? The planet has already ascended and the planet ascended first. And so now we're kind of catching up to her. So as she started ascending, we started understanding a little bit more, there's more clarity around what this whole process is. And we're still learning what this entire, we don't have all the answers, right? We're learning as we are ascending. We're learning what it all means. We're watching ourselves go through this physical process and learning as we're going. It's like a moment by moment sort of process for me. Mm-hmm. Every day is like, here's a new thing about my ascension, right? Like it's like, yes, it's very broad. Like I could say, okay, here's what it looks like. Here's what it feels like. Here's what that looks like for me. But I think every person kind of has their own sort of feel to it and experience. But for me, it's been a lot of, the first words that come in for me in terms of my ascension is deep surrendering. Instead of all the very physical things that just happen no matter what, the physical symptoms are going to happen to you regardless of whether you are conscious of your ascension process or not. It's just going to happen. It's happening to everybody on the planet. Every physical body is receiving that light, right? They're receiving those frequencies, and it's coming from the top and the bottom, right? So the earth is also feeding us these frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of how much can you surrender to this process. And when we try to conceptualize and really understand with our beautiful human minds what's happening, like it's important to get that kind of like, oh, there's the picture I see, okay, this is what I can expect, right? That's awesome, because as a human we need that, you know. It's like, can you give me something so I know I'm doing it, right? Humans want to know,
surrender.
yeah, like, where am I on the Richter scale of ascension? Because I know she's over here and I know he's over, like, where am I, right? And am I doing it? And how, and where am I? And how good am I doing it? And it's beautiful, because it's who we are as humans. It's absolutely adorable. We're going to look down and turn around and look back at this time and look at how cute we were, because we were so adamant about getting it right. And you can't get ascension right. You can't get ascension wrong. Ascension's just happening no matter what you do. And the easiest way to kind of move through ascension, I think, from my own personal journey, is deeply surrendering, deep surrender to every single, and that takes a huge amount of courage and a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
So deep surrendering every day, like everything that's coming into your life, deeply surrendering to that. The other thing that's really helped me is to start to really come into the physical body, which is, believe it or not, most of us are not in the physical body, even though we think we are. We're absolutely not. Although we're becoming, I think 2017 for me, and for what I saw with my clients, 2017 was like, oh, embodiment, time to embody. And that's why it was so painful. That's why it was so emotional. That's why everybody was having these ups and downs, because we were literally, and again, it's unconscious, we were literally being asked to come in. You can't ascend, you can't pull in the light, you can't raise your frequency, you can't feel your higher self, you can't listen to your intuition and all that stuff deeply without really being in your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in your physical body, okay, really in it, you will feel like, what the hell's going on? You know, like all of a sudden the emotions, and that's what happened last year for so many of us. It was like, holy cow, I am like really feeling things intensely. And not only that, but you were feeling them from like when you were like 6 years old, right? Like things were popping up and it was like, where the freak did this come from? That's because we were finally getting into our bodies so that we could kind of like just move it through and allow more of this amazing frequency that's coming in, and ground. And so when you start to do that, you listen, you start to hear your higher self, and your higher self is different than your intuition. And the ascension process is it's almost like the best way to make this as easy as possible is to let that voice guide. Let that voice guide you. Let that voice move you. And then can you surrender to that voice? And can you trust that every single thing that's happening, painful or not, is always the next highest step for you, for your highest growth, for your highest evolution? You know, it's always, even if it looks like your world is falling apart, you know, it's always the next best thing for you. And the more you can get into that space, into your body, and really start to feel your higher self, the easier it becomes, and the more you can surrender to it. You know, the physical symptoms, you know, I would say the last couple of years, I've had a ton of energy that just moves throughout my body, in my legs, a lot of energy in my legs. People in my life are gone that used to be in my life. My relationship with my family is very different. My boundaries, the energies around me is extremely important. You know, things that, and this is very familiar to a lot of people, but you know, things that used to really matter don't matter anymore. Things that used to make you happy don't really make me happy anymore. I don't watch television whatsoever in all. Well, actually I take that back. I do watch Vanderpump Rules, but that's because, hello, it's so fun. And
I don't
it
know
just
what
kind
that
of like,
is, but I like the title.
it's one of those reality shows.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like an escape.
Terribly addictive. Yeah.
It's so, but physically, what's starting to happen now that I'm on the Mount Shasta and I'm really allowing these energies to move through me is you start to get really familiar with what's happening in the physical body when the crown starts to open. You start to feel the light within your body really starting to vibrate. You can feel it moving. You're going to start to feel a lot more, people are going to start to feel a lot more energy around them. They're going to start to feel energy above them. They're going to start to feel energy below them. We're going to start to feel a lot more energy. And there's nothing you need to do to have this. There's no books you need to read. There's no courses you need to take. There's nothing you need to do. This is our given right for being on the planet right now. This is going to happen to you. This is going to come to you. This is going to unravel for every single person. Now, how it unravels, it depends on your path, but it's going to happen. It's happening to every single one of us. And so we just can't see it. We can't see it happening. And so we look around because we're human beings and we say, well, this person's doing this, so how come this isn't happening to me? And well, they're already away over here on their ascension process and I want to be there. And trying to understand it all. And the best thing you can do is just kick back, throw your feet on the desk and say, here I am, let's go, and just let it kind of unravel as best you can. I mean, the star beings inside Telos, they're always saying, and Adama, who's one of the high priests in Telos, he's always saying to people, it's like we've been on this freaking journey for many of us, for thousands of years. Okay, imagine this. Your spirit has been doing this human thing for thousands of years. And we're here. This is it. Like, we're in front of the gates. It's happening. Let's enjoy, relax. You made it. You made it.
Yeah.
You made it, right? You made it. It's done. It's done. It's happening now. How much can you relax, surrender, give it all over, and go for the ride? Like, okay, bring it on, And it's easier for me because I live on the mountain. I'm in a small town. I am not in, the normal, busy, crazy cities. So it's really easy for me. And I get that for sure. And I know how hard it is for people that have really busy lives to be able to kind of do that. But if you can start to think about it like that you've been doing this, there's a lot of people that haven't been on the planet very long, right? A couple hundred years, or maybe even 1 or 2 lifetimes. But many of us we have put in a lot of freaking lifetimes. And now it's like, we made it. Yeah. Look at what we did. Holy cow. Now can you freaking relax and enjoy it? Can you enjoy it?
I love that. So, I mean, yeah, as you say, every single person alive today, there's no coincidence, is it, that we're here now as this is happening on the planet?
Every single person. I'm talking every single body on the planet, including the government, including the people you can't stand, including the president. I'm talking every physical body on the planet, every single physical body on the planet. It's no mistake.
Included and the whole lot, right? So what?
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Trust, surrender, relax. Wise words. Thank you, Laurie. And don't we need to be reminded of that, because the human mind can get in there and start throwing up a few interesting things. But just going back to, we're really back to go forwards. I loved what you said about the 1980s kind of ascension process. Beam me up, Scotty, right?
Totally. Come on up. You get to go home. You're like, yes. And
I still think in 2012 there was a few people out there with landing pads, right? And
oh, maybe, I don't know. There might have been.
But what is the latest thinking? I mean, I totally get and I know you're absolutely right. I feel that with every single fiber of my being, that this is a personal, unique ascension process, and it's different for everybody. But what is the latest current thinking at the moment in terms of what this might look like? So are we going to be taking our bodies? Are we going to be having new bodies? What is 5D? Can you give us some insight into that, please, Laurie?
So cute. I love it. I just love it. Okay, so here's what I know right now. Okay. We will be in our bodies. And so what's happening right now? All I can talk about is my own personal experiences and what I hear from my own space, right? You can go and listen. There's many different ways to see what's happening. There's many different beliefs about what's going to happen. So just know that's just out there. So I just speak about what I know and what I hear, which is basically, I always try to go into the space of knowing nothing. And they've been teaching me that more and more, just be in this space of knowing nothing. But what I do know is that we are shifting very quickly timelines and realities, paradigms. We are literally being lifted up and moving over. And it's really hard to conceptualize that until you actually feel it. And what it feels like is literally like you have been walking a path and you've had this vision, you've had, the same scenes, right? You've got the buildings and the trees and the cars and the people. This is your life. And then you literally, and everything's kind of just moving in this space, and you're in your body, right? And it feels very comfortable. This is what I've been doing for the last 40 years. And somebody literally one day picks you up and takes you and moves you over to this other road. And all of a sudden things are kind of feeling a little different. Things are kind of easier. You're hearing things aren't around that used to be, right? And you're like, okay, and there's no choice. You're just moving along. That's a timeline that you literally moved out of, and now you're in a different timeline, right? Then you start to move down that timeline, and you're moving and moving, and literally it's like, boop, we're moving to another one, right? And so what happens is your physical body starts to acclimate to the higher frequencies. Your DNA is starting to acclimate and shift. Your cells are literally turning on. They're turning on, they're spinning. They're beginning to remember. They've been dormant, literally. Like, if you can imagine cells and your DNA like a plant, right? And when the light comes in, it's chlorophyll, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm alive. And when that starts to happen, you start to remember what the freak you're doing here. Your body starts to remember who it is, what it is, right? That it's a light body in a physical form. And when you start to remember that, everything shifts around you, right? And again, this is all not anything that you're conscious of. And so, I mean, you're conscious of it, but there's nothing that you need to do. It just starts to happen. So moving into 5D is like watching your hair grow. You don't realize you're doing it. It's like all of a sudden you look in the mirror a year from now, and you're like, holy cow, my hair's down to my waist. When did that happen? That's shifting. And it's literally like you're being moved from one timeline to another, and you're going back and forth right now. So we're kind of moving back and forth. So one day you'll feel really in the flow, right? And then the next you're like sunken down, total dense, right? Density, like feeling it all and just like, ugh. But in terms of like, what's it going to look like? What's the new earth, right? Everybody talks about the new earth, right?
Yeah.
So, and like, when is that's going to happen? Freak if I know. I have no idea when the new earth's going to be here. I have no idea how long it's going to take humanity to get that place, to that space. Yeah. But I do know this. I know the Lemurians are living in a 5th to 7th dimensional frequency. And they're holding that frequency for us on the planet. They've been holding it for 15,000 years. And there's many Lemurians that volunteered to be out here on the planet to hold that frequency down in their physical bodies. And so they are kind of the prototype of kind of what we're moving towards. And it's a big difference right now. So in terms of like when we're going to get to that space, I don't know. I mean, the earth is already there. The earth is holding us and loving us and breathing through this process for us, right? And is it going to be in our lifetime? Everybody wants to know that. I don't know. And if there's somebody that's going to tell you they know, then they're doing a disservice, because we don't know. We can't know. You know, we just can't know.
Mm-hmm.
We're human beings.
Yeah.
Would it be great to be able to be here on the planet when it happens? Absolutely, because of all the damn work we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that what I'm watching when I bring people into these portals inside Mount Shasta is there are many, many people that that will not come back. You know, that this was their job, this was their duty. They did their work, and when they leave, that's it. They're going somewhere else, and they're not going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also people that believe that that there's going to be two earths, right? There's going to be those that can't quite get there yet, and that's the timelines. That's the dimensional shift. So if you understand that everything happens at the exact same time, that everything's happening, the earth has already ascended, we've already ascended, we've already shifted, there's already a new earth, right? It's like, it's complicated and it's hard to kind of conceptualize.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understand that we've already done it, it's already done, then there is already a new earth, and there is still a three-dimensional earth, you know, density that we're still on, then sure, of course there's going to be two earths, right? Like
there's multiple, isn't there, anyway? Yeah.
I mean, there's just like such a, you know, there's so many paths to go, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
multiverses, multiple
like
potentials.
Exactly.
Infinite possibilities.
So when is this all going to happen? Heck if I know. It already happened. But when are we going to catch up to it?
Time.
Yeah.
What is it? So question. So on 5D, how can our viewers, how do we know when we are in 5D? Do you know?
Well, I can tell you how I know I'm in that higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can speak about. And the only reason I know is because I'm starting to feel it more. I'm starting to become aware of it more.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first start moving through the ascension process, right? And you first start becoming aware that you're in this ascension process, you have to realize you're a very dense, heavy, physical body that is literally shifting into a very light physical body. So your physical body is still staying here, right? But what's starting to happen is there's a lot more frequency, light that's coming into it, pushing out the dense blocks of energy, which is energy takes up space, and energy is emotion, energy is thoughts. That starts to move through without you doing anything. You don't need to do anything. It just moves through you. This is the other thing about the cute humanness. We feel like we have so much that we need to do in order to process it and clear it, and you don't. It just does it naturally. It's so cute. It's like the amount of work we're doing that we don't need to do. It's like, my goodness, humans, if you just relax and just let it happen, it's so much easier, you know, but there's so much, we have to do it all.
I'm sure that I know that's true.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I got to go get my healing work. I need more energy work. I need more clearings. I need more this. I need more this. And you know, these beautiful beings up here are like, please just stop. Please just stop. Please just let us do this for you. Let us do this for you. And this is for anybody in any space and any time along their ascension process, these beings around us that we can't necessarily see, that some of us can feel, they want to do it all for us. They want to help us and guide us, right? So, but anyways, how do I know I'm in 5D? I'm in present moment. I'm in present. I'm like, and it feels so freeing. It feels free. You feel like you're floating through your day, right? And you're in complete alignment. And what that means to me when I'm in complete alignment is that I just know that everything that's happening is perfect. I know that I'm being guided to be going wherever I need to go for that day. There's nothing conscious happening for me. Mm-hmm. It's just like something's just moving through me, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not attached to anything. So when something comes through me, when I get pissed off at the coffee lady, that's it, right? It comes through and I'm aware. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing when you're in 5D, when you're in that higher frequency, you're very aware of your humanness. Mm-hmm. So it's like, because you're still in the physical third dimensional body, you still have your mind and your ego that's really charging forward, even when you're in that 5D space. For me, where I am right now, there are many people that are in a totally different space when they move into 5D. It really depends on how much frequency you have, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm very aware of when I'm in that flow, in that space, I'm very aware of my very cute humanness, and being aware of what my ego is saying, what my thoughts are saying, what my mind is saying, because that doesn't go away just because you're in the fifth dimensional frequency. It quiets and you're aware of it, so you don't follow it. So mm-hmm. You're not being led by it, but you're completely aware of it. If anybody tells you the ego goes away, I mean, I would like to sit with them and be like, how'd you do it? Because that's the gift of being a human being. That's why we came down here to play in this playground, is to be like, what's this ego all about? What's this mind all about? What is all this about, right? Mm-hmm. The problem now is we have to learn that it is not in control any longer. That the higher self is in control, mm-hmm. right? The higher self in our I am presence needs to be in control now. Mm. How do you merge those two? How do you bring those two together and say, hey, you guys have to be friends now. You have to come together and work together. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens when you start raising your frequency. You start to become very aware of that ego and mind, and you start to not let it take the lead. You just listen to it. And then you're like, oh, wow, look at that cute thought I just had about myself and how insecure I am. Or, oh, look at how I just told myself that, you're not going to be able to do that, or you're not allowed to have that, or, whatever it is that comes in, it's like this, you have this bigger picture, mm-hmm. and that's it. Mm-hmm. And then there's a part of you that knows that is just part of the human structure that you're living in, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot. It takes it's just constant doing it. It's like, the beings inside the mountain, they're always like, you guys are in kindergarten. You can't just skip most of us, right? We're in kindergarten, and we can't just jump up to senior in high school and be moving along at that pace. It takes a lot of learning how to do this. Surrendering in and of itself is like torture sometimes, right? How does a human being surrender? It's really challenging. So all these little things that we talk about, that we speak about, when you actually start doing them, are very hard as a human being. And so, that's why the star beings are like, listen, we are right here. All you got to do is ask, bring us into your awareness, and we will literally make this so much easier for you. And that's why so many people are becoming aware of their star families, and they're becoming aware of, where they came from, because that's the plan. That's the divine plan in ascension and awakening, is that we are not doing it alone. And not only are we not doing it alone because we have all these other human beings, but we've got a system of light that's with us, these beautiful beings that are like, hello, it's time, we're here, let us help you, right? And it's like, and it has nothing to do with like, are you a starseed? Are you a this? Are you a that? You talk to a star being, they don't give a crap what you call it. They don't care what you understand. They don't care. All they care about, all these beautiful beings care about, is that you're listening to them and you're walking the path with them. That's it. You can label it. You can have whatever name you want. You could do whatever you want. That's just the human part of us that really wants to, like, you know, sometimes they don't tell me there's, I'll bring clients in to inside the mountain, to these portals. And I know the client wants to know their name, the star system. What's the star system's name, right? Because we're a human being, it's important for us. And if this system doesn't tell me their name, I'm not going to sit and argue with that system, right? And say, no, the client needs to know your name. Please tell them your name. I'm not going to do that. So there's a reason. It's like, it's not important. What's way more important is that you start to listen, you start to ask, you start to participate with them, you start to bring them into your consciousness. It makes life so much easier. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my goodness, I could just go on forever, because it's like, this is just all they want people to hear, and then the how do you do it? But that's a whole nother thing.
Well, could you maybe share with our viewers about how you connected with these beings and how you came to understand yourself to be a channel for these multidimensional beings, and to introduce people to Telos, this incredible city in Mount Shasta. And I guess in the context of the ascension process, right? Because, and I know this from my own journey, and I know many of our viewers ask the same question, like, what is my purpose? Yep. What are my gifts? At what stage of the ascension process am I going to be able to access these and understand why I'm here? Could you maybe share a little bit on that for us, about how that happened for you?
Oh, I love everybody that's in that stage, because I totally get it. And so many of us are. And what a beautiful stage, because we're waking up, and it's like, we're remembering, oh my God, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. Tell me it. What's my reason? What's my reason? What's my purpose? And I feel it. I've known since I was a little girl. So there's never been a question. I didn't wake up one day and say, oh my gosh, right? I've known since I was 12. So I just had to surrender to what that was. So here's the part about ascension and surrendering. Who you're here to be on the planet at this time, as you open up to your divinity, as you open up to your light, as you start to listen, is inside of you. Nobody's going to tell you. Nobody's going to show you. Nobody's going to give you a book. Nobody's going to show you a screen of what it's going to look like. It doesn't happen that way for most of us. Okay. It doesn't. It does not happen that way. And if somebody tells you what your purpose is, I would take it with a grain of salt, because nobody knows your freaking purpose but you. Nobody knows your gifts. Nobody can go inside of you and tell you. Now, people can feel the energy around you. They can tap into who you are, right, as a divine being of light, and they can kind of taste it. Do you know what I mean? Energetically. But nobody can really give that to you. So I always knew. I just didn't know what it was. Just like everybody else, right? It's like, I know I'm here for something, but I have no idea what it was. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I knew I needed to surrender completely to whatever it was. But the scary thing is I had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. So how do I surrender to something that I don't even know what it is? I know that it's the ascension. I know that I'm here to do that, right? So I committed one day and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to surrender to everything, take over, show me, give me, guide me, do it. I'm done. I'm committing 100%. And I started listening. And that's when I was at a corporate job. I worked as an executive assistant in a private equity firm in San Francisco, making a crap ton of money. I was also a yoga instructor part-time. So I knew I could fall back on the yoga if I needed to, right? And I just listened. I listened. And it was like, you're going to leave your job. What? You're going to leave your job. What? As soon as I committed 100% and said, I'm done, you're going to leave your job. When? When it's right. You're going to leave your job. When? When it's right. When it's right. What is when it's right? This is the ascension. This is the ascension process, right? When it's time. Well, what does that mean? They're not going to give you specifics. There's no specifics. It's all unfolding as you walk. As you take that next step, something else opens. As you take that next step, your work that you're doing now, what we're doing now, is not going to be what we're doing in a year from now. It won't. We will be walking deeper into our purpose work. And so when people want to know their purpose work, trust me, you don't, because it will blow your mind, and you will sit back and you will be paralyzed because you won't know where to start. You won't know where to start. And so when people come into these portals where they can access this information inside the mountain, every single person wants to know what their purpose is. And I, of course, have no control. I just let it all come. Some people are shown the people that are shown the specific things, they freeze. It's too much. It's like, okay, now what do I do with all this? There's anxiety, and so sometimes it's better to kind of not know necessarily what it is, and that's just, both spaces are hard to be in. So what you have to do as you're ascending, as the light's coming in, as you're surrender, tell them you're ready. Tell them you're ready. Tell them you're ready. Every day, I'm ready. Give me it. I'm ready. Give me it. I'm ready. Give me it. And then if you listen, it'll come. But if you fight it, well, that's your fault. You're fighting it, right? And it's hard. But there's no guidebook.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell you. And that's the hardest part to kind of get across to people. So I surrendered, and then I knew it had something to do with the mountain because I'd always been really close to the mountain. I'd been in Telos once before in 95. I started working with a mentor, and she said one day to me, I was at her house in Mount Shasta here. I was visiting her doing a day-long kind of immersive. She said, I want you to channel the Lemurians. And I said, what are you talking about? I don't channel. I've never channeled ever in my life. I'd never channeled. She said, my guides are telling me to ask you to channel. And I said, okay, well, that's bizarre because I don't even know what to do. And she just said, well, just sit down and see what happens. And I did. And that was the first time that I sat and brought in something that wasn't me. And then it kind of just opened. So the more you can kind of open to whatever is coming, it's like, and then I just decided to start sitting. I just did it on my own. I started sitting and bringing in a Dhamma. And then I created a website. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I started doing these sessions, and and then one of my clients said, hey, can you take me inside Telos? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, can you take me inside Telos? And I said, in my head, I'm thinking, I don't bring people inside the mountain. I bring myself in. And I said, and then I heard the voice. The voice said, take him in. And I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody's told me this is how you do it. This is what you do. You close their eyes, you bring their body into this space, you take them here and here and here, right? Mm-hmm. But I heard the voice, and I said, okay, I'm doing it. And I pretended like I knew what I was doing. And I closed my eyes with him, and I brought him in, and that was it. When you're doing your work, when you're doing your purpose, it flows. Mm-hmm. You kind of are just like, how the hell did I know how to do that? Mm-hmm. That's your purpose. Mm-hmm. That's your work. And that's how and then it just unfolded from there. But that's how the universe works. It's like when you surrender, they'll bring that client that says, hey, can you do this with me? And you're going to be like, you got to listen. You got to listen to that voice that's going to say, do it. And then you're going to say, well, I don't know how. Exactly. Close your eyes and do it. And then it unfolds for you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think there is so much truth and guidance in what you've just shared there, and I love what you said about it opens up step by step.
Yeah. The
more that you trust and the more that you go with it. And that has been my experience also, because, similar to you, I was in corporate, right? And then 3 years ago, what happened to me is I received this massive activation. I woke up one morning, there were 2 6-foot-tall star beings stood in my bedroom, right?
I love it. Yeah.
And I left corporate.
Wow, they didn't want to wait. They were ready to wake you up, right? When you see them, it's like,
it was time. Yeah. And, but still, it took me a good sort of 2.5 years after that, but I keep on sort of stepping out and following the path for me to work out what it was that I'm here to do. And it's still unraveling, but I have a much clearer picture today. But it has been that step by step, and the gifts, and obviously you being a channel, and the work that you're doing, the gifts, Laurie, do they come at a certain stage of ascension? I know that's again a linear way of putting it, but do they come as a result of you raising in frequency, holding more light?
So that's a good question, because I think there's a lot of, so we all have these gifts that they aren't really gifts. They're just who we are. As we start to shift into higher frequencies, we all have the ability to access all of this. All channeling is, right, is just receiving frequencies, receiving energy. That's it. You're just tapping into energy. So I think there's a lot of people that came onto the planet and that are doing their work right now that didn't raise their frequency, and all of a sudden these things just happened to them and they just started channeling and trans-channeling and doing whatever gifts they have, Reiki, whatever that is, right? And it really didn't have much to do with where their frequency was in their body. It was just the work they were here to do, and that's when they needed to do it, and they started doing it, and then they were moving through the ascension at the same time. So there's those type of people, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think there are the mass majority of us we have to get our frequency higher. We have to open up energy centers within us, the 7 energy centers, right? We have to get that meridian flowing more so that we can begin to access and understand the multidimensionality of us, and begin to feel, begin to hear, begin to see, begin to experience. And that happens as we move through that ascension process. So I think for the majority of us, yes, the more we move through the ascension process, the easier it's going to, the more opens for us, the more we start to understand what we're here to do, the more we start to understand our gifts, the more things start to expand and open. And really, a lot of times, without us really doing anything, as long as you're listening and kind of really in your body, you'll start to notice. You have to bring awareness to it. So if you're so busy all the time doing and running around and doing your really busy life, it's going to be hard to notice what's happening within you and around you. So if you quiet, the more you can quiet and sit and bring your awareness into your physical body, the more you'll start to be aware of, oh, there's things I'm feeling around me. Oh, I can hear things, or, oh, I can feel things but the human being is so busy, go, 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 go. There's, even as you're moving through the ascension process, you're not going to realize and recognize what's happening unless you stop and you slow down. So for the majority of us, it's as we are ascending, as we are bringing in more light, as we are creating more space in the physical body for more of that light, we're going to start to wake up, and the gifts are going to start to become more apparent for us.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about the multidimensional beings inside of Telos and how they can help us with our ascension process. So I wondered if you could speak to that for a few minutes. And also, I know you've got a very generous, may I say, very generous. We were chatting before and I was like, whoa, okay, is the digits right on this? Because it's an extremely generous offer that Laurie's got for all of our lovely viewers today. So I'm excited to share about that. But can you just lead us in a little bit in terms of talking about the multidimensional beings in Telos and how they can help us with the ascension process?
Oh my goodness. They're not just in Telos, and they're actually not in Telos. So here's what I've recognized in 2018. So my entire work has shifted. So when you enter into these multidimensional spaces, which we're all capable of doing, and we're all going to be doing it more and more and more, you have the ability to access higher frequencies easier, right? So you use your etheric body, which is the body you travel in when you're sleeping. It's the body that you move around into other dimensions and spaces. You've probably traveled into your star system with your etheric body. It's how we move when we're physically asleep and the dense body's laying there. And you can take your etheric body wherever you want to go. And when you bring it into these multidimensional spaces on the earth, and they're basically portals. It's not an actual physical space. It's an energy field you're moving into, but it looks very real when you're there, right? So Telos is one of them. And then and Telos is almost like a portal that will open you to all these other portals, right? So what I'm noticing now is, as I walk into this one room in Telos, it's like all these different star beings are there to meet their families, the clients that come in. And then the star beings are opening up these gateways, these stargates, that are blowing my mind. I'm like, am I making this up? Like, I'm looking at the client. We're in our etheric bodies, well, fifth dimensional bodies. And I'm looking at this client, like, in my head, I'm thinking, I mean, this is what's happening, but is this really what's happening? Like, they're opening up these portals for us to see, like, the system they're from. And then they're coming in these really unique sort of like technically like advanced sort of craft. And then the craft just disappears. And then they're standing there. And here's the thing. They're not UFO, ET, crazy, spacey looking beings. Okay. God bless every single person that has their own experience of star beings. All I ever talk about, and all I will ever talk about, is what I experience and what I see and what I feel and what I know to be my truth.
Yeah.
And my absolute truth about these star beings is that, and it's a totally different paradigm that you have to step into to really understand, to open to this. They don't have 3 fingers. They don't have freaky looking faces. They don't have, in my experience, what I've seen, and I've seen more than a handful, dozens of different star systems. They are light, just like we are. They vibrate at a different frequency, just like we do. They can shift. They can shape shift if they want to, and if we ask them to. Now, your consciousness as a human being can see through your own consciousness what you want to see.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So they can't necessarily stop your consciousness from imagining what you're seeing. So it's real what these people are seeing. Okay. But it's all based on where your consciousness is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I totally see where you're coming from.
If you raise your frequency, okay, and you start experiencing these beings of light, and this is just my own experience. If you raise your frequency to us and you start to experience these light beings in a higher frequency within your physical body, you're not going to see them as space creatures, because they're not. They don't have, most of them don't have physical forms like we do. They're in a much higher frequency. So if you just take away what you're seeing and just think of energy and physics, they aren't physical. They aren't physical. They aren't. Now, like the Palladians are like a 7th, 8th, 9th dimensional frequency. So and the Lemurians are 5th, 6th, 7th, right? So yeah, they have more of a shape. They have more of a form, right?
What do they look like to you, Laurie?
So like, it really depends on the system, but like, so if it's a slower frequency, a slower vibration, let's just say like a Palladian, which can be anywhere from like a 7th to like a 12th dimensional frequency. They look very much like Lemurians. So what I see is a body, like a form, almost like us, but way lighter, right? So it's almost like iridescent. But there's a physical form there, and they're tall, right? And they look they're like our cousins, really. They're very close to us, the Palladians. When I see, say, for instance, the Syrians. So the Syrians they shapeshift all the time, and so sometimes they will come in with these like they almost have they've got this blue tone kind of light to them, and they will shapeshift for humans to see them in this like this really intense kind of feline type of like energy, like I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they don't look like an actual lion or a cat, or you know what I mean? But the energy around it is this, it's hard to explain. There's a system that will come in, there was a system that's come in twice that I'd never heard of, Antares.
Okay.
They came in, and they were, the first time they came in, they were so bright that I asked them to kind of bring down the light, bring down that, you know, can you tone it down so we can freaking see something, because it's way too bright, you know? And that means that their frequency was really, really high. That whatever dimension they are living in as a light being, it's really high because how bright it is. And they toned it down. And a lot of times the way I see beings of light is just pillars with different colors.
Right. Okay.
And that's how and so depending upon the dimension they're from, there's more form or less form.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's
and the crazy thing about it is it's so normal. It's like, oh my God, how can I make this normal for people? How can I make this not about star beings, but about like, hey, your family's hanging out, waiting. I'm going to make your life so much easier if you just start to listen to them and ask and bring them in. It is so not about like, how advanced am I and how spiritual am I? And am I a star seeder? It's like, no. Honestly, it's not about that. It's like, it's just about being a human being walking on the planet right now. And that these beings, I mean, I just listen to them and I do whatever they say, because it's like, they don't have a voice, right? It's like, they can't voice to the humans what they're asking the humans to remember and to open up to. And so it's like, I honestly feel like whatever I can do for them to reach all of you, that's the only thing I want to do. You know, it's like, okay, how can I make this easier for the human being? And how can I make it easier for these beings of light that just want to help us and work with us and walk with us the rest of this journey?
So tell us, how can people go on this journey? How can people meet their family, these star families? And I know it's through this generous offer, this generous package that you've put together for us. How can people go on a further journey with you and be helped in their ascension process with these incredible beings?
Yeah, I mean, so the recorded journeys are just like a kind of like a getting your feet kind of wet, like, oh, this is what it's like to be in Telos. This is what it's like to interact with star beings. This is what it's like to interact with, like, in that etheric space, right? Really conscious of it. Although they do kind of knock you out because they're pretty powerful. But if you do one-on-one guided journey with me, which is on my website, it's individualized and it's guided just for you. So I'm channeling everything that's coming. And right now it's out of this world what's happening. I mean, every time I go in, I'm like learning, I'm just like, I don't know anything, you know, so that these beings can just come in and take over. And I'm doing a group guided journey today for the first time, because they told me on the mountain, they said, you need to do a group guided journey. And I said, well, I don't take groups in. I don't even know how to manage that. Like, because I am managing a person, right? I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm taking them. It's not like I'm holding their hand. And they said, we need you to bring more in. We need more people to go in. We need more people to go in. So I'm going to start doing these group journeys, I think once a month, to get more people to come in. And then it's kind of like, once you come in and do these group journeys, or even a one-on-one, it's like you start to, it's like kindergarten or preschool, right? It's like, oh, okay, so that's what it feels like to experience them. And then you can come back and be like, okay, I want more information, right? And you can come back and, okay, now I want even more. Or you can start working with them on your own. People just need to like feel it. Like, oh, that's what it feels like. They're here. They just need to feel these beings, right? And when you're in that dimension, and when you're being guided by someone like myself that can move you there and communicate and channel it, and you can feel it, then you're like, oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. And then you have that memory, you have that remembrance. It's in your physical body because you feel it. You can't forget it.
So everyone's got an amazing opportunity. Everybody watching this summit has got an amazing opportunity that you've put together for them, right? And it's these 12 journeys.
Yes.
Into Telos. So tell us a bit about that. We've got a few minutes left, and I really want to get to this because this is awesome, and I know our viewers are going to love it.
Yeah. So the first 6 journeys are, and just listen to your higher self, what journeys you're guided to. The first 6 are temples within within Telos, and they're dealing with the sacred flames that are on the planet right now. And each sacred flame works with a specific ascended master, and each sacred flame works with a certain energy center within your body. So there's a lot of healing work that can get done, although I don't really believe in healing work anymore from what I've been shown. It's kind of like, it doesn't really need to happen anymore, but that depends on where your frequency is in your body. But regardless, there's a lot of stuff that happens. And they do knock you out sometimes. So if you might have to listen a couple times. The other 6 are a higher frequency transmission that comes through. So when I do these recordings, I just sit, I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea where they're going to take me. So in the last 6, I think it's called the Lemurian experience. It's all intuitive, and I just go in and they show me what they want you guys to know. And so they're very unique experiences. They're not, I don't think we go into one star chamber, which is pretty powerful. And so you're working with star beings directly and they're doing work on you. Yeah. But again, when I take clients in 2018, there's no activations that are happening. There's no clearings. There's no healings. There's no opening of energy centers. What I used to do is not happening now. So I'm sure there'll be more recordings, but yeah, so you can start to kind of play around with getting your feet wet. And then if you feel called to be like, oh my God, I want to go in, I want to have a really detailed journey. I do those just like we're doing right now, like through Zoom. But the 12 are amazing. I mean, just go in and play around, and they're all around an hour long, each one. And it's pretty amazing.
Amazing. It's that is an incredible experience, an incredible package, an opportunity you've put together, and a massive discount. Thank you so much for your generosity. I think we worked out, I was on the calculator, it's like, whoa, 75%.
Awesome.
That you're offering for these 12 journeys. So an incredible opportunity. So they're at the $97 mark, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if people are interested in taking up that opportunity, then please click on the link on the email that I've sent you today, which will take you through so that you can purchase that incredible package. So I really, encourage everybody to do that. And I think everybody will agree, Laura, you're an awesome being. Who's here on mission. We're all awesome.
We're all doing our thing.
But it's been a true joy and a true pleasure to speak to you today and to connect with you. I love your energy. I love what you had to say about the ascension process and just keeping it simple, really, in terms of just the trust, the surrender, and just following that path. I think that is, we can get all technical, but do you know what? You're absolutely right. When everything is boiled down, just trust, surrender, have faith. Your soul has got you here. It's worked so hard. And we're all in good hands, right?
Yeah, you kind of break it down into just the most simple. You can get really bogged down into, am I doing it right? And is what's happening to my body compared to somebody else's? And how do I know? And it's like if you're listening to this right now, trust these messages that you're already moving through the ascension, that there is nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to understand. There's nothing you need to understand. Your human body, your human mind wants to understand it. And that's great because you want to have a concept like what's happening to me. But if you can just let go and just trust that you're moving through the ascension at your speed, right? What's exactly needed for you in the moment, in that next right moment. If you can surrender more and more, it's going to get easier and easier and faster and faster and faster. You know, and listen. Listen
and follow.
Listen and then follow it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And then people want to know, well, how do I know if I'm listening or not? Or, you know, if it's the right voice, and that's a whole other conversation. But the more you do it, the more you understand that voice.
That's true. Through practice and experience.
Yeah.
And through taking a few detours, right, every now and again, and learning from it. Have you ever done
that? Yeah. Well, I did a detour. Actually, I listened to my higher self. It was a detour for my ego. My higher self had a real fun time with this one. I was in Shasta. I moved to Shasta last February, and I had a really hard time settling in. Really hard time. And I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. My ego wanted my yoga studio. My ego wanted my coffee shops. My ego wanted people around. My ego really wasn't ready to settle into this space. So I moved to Bend, Oregon in September for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I mean, I packed up the U-Haul. I got the trailer with the car hitch. I mean, I was going. And I got the place to rent. I did it all. And then 2 weeks later, my higher self started laughing and said, "Are you done?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Are you like," because I knew the second I got there, I needed to head back to Shasta. And it was so strong in me, I wasn't going to deny that voice. The same voice that took me to Bend is the same voice that took me back. But my ego needed to get that lesson. My ego needed to understand. So back here I went. 2 weeks later, I'm at a different place.
You surrendered.
I surrendered. I did. I surrendered to Shasta. I was like, all right, I'm done. My ego is going to quiet. I am completely here. And that's the gift of listening to that higher self. It doesn't always take you to where you want to go, you know? So. No.
Better to hand it over and just follow the path, right? And see where you end up.
Yeah.
As I think we can both testify, and I think a lot of our viewers will be able to, if not all of them as well.
Totally.
Try telling God your plans and listen to yourself laugh.
I want it this way and this way. Can I have it this way? Can I have this that goes along with it? Like, no. Nope. Surrender.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lorraine. You've been
so
awesome.
It was so fun.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Really cool. And I know that our viewers are gonna love listening to this and watching this as well. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in to this incredible interview. And please reach out. Let us know what you thought to this interview. What were your key takeaways? Have you ever gone on any detours and got a bit wiser because of it? So do reach out, and we love to connect with you. And I'd like to invite everybody to keep tuned into keep plugged into the Multidimensional Human Experience Summit. I have got more amazing teachers and speakers and experts and leaders and way showers. So we're going to be very, very wise about ascension by the end of March. We're all going to be very wise indeed, and I'm sure able to embody much more light. So
yes,
stay with us.
Awesome.
And, thank you so much again, Laurie.
Thank you. And thank you to all your listeners that are here and are listening to you and to everything that you're bringing to everyone. It's amazing. It's so, so important. So thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Appreciate that. Bye for now, everybody, and see you tomorrow.